in hospitality, we get to see the most vulnerable moments of people's lives, right? We always say the most personal things a person can do, the most intimate things a person can do are make babies, number one. Number two, enjoy a meal. And number three, rest for the night. Like those are the three most vulnerable personal, where your physical body kind of reveals its character or is sensitive, right? So a great meal, you can picture when grandma makes you a great meal, like the entire family's closer. Why? Well, because something happens magical around meals. And then when you're going to bed, if someone gives you the best sleep of your night, like forever, like the best mattress, the best pillow, the best comfort, you just feel peaceful. Or the opposite is true. If the bed is lumpy or the pillow's bad or the cold temperatures can't be controlled, you will get so angry and you're so vulnerable. So what we did is we just kind of read the tea leaves and developed a culture that was based on the person. And it transformed us to a national figure.
Hey, it's Rocky. Welcome to Richer Soul. Today's guest is Josh McCallen, and he's going to share how to run a soul-based business. Imagine it's 12 months from now, and you've achieved your major life goals. How does it feel to be in the best shape of your life? To wake up energized, excited about the day? To have great relationships and friends who support you and propel you forward? How does it feel to have an excess of money, to be able to make the choices you want? To be fearless and open to trying new adventures? Imagine being connected to the universe and it providing everything you desire. It's possible over time, and your past does not dictate your future. The only thing holding you back from this vision is you. It's time to take control of our thoughts and use them to our advantage. Welcome to Richer Soul, where we achieve our dreams and bring balance to health, wealth, relationships, time, and spirituality. If you have not had a chance to listen to episodes 1 through 9, I encourage you to go back and listen to the framework behind Richer Soul and how to create the life of your dreams. You can also find all the show notes for this episode at richersoul.com. While you're there, you can sign up for a monthly email where I share the best articles I read this month, let you know about upcoming episodes, and share a little wisdom. You can also listen to coaching calls under the Coaching Calls tab. I also share the most interesting articles I read every week on Facebook at facebook.com/Richer Soul. And there's also a Facebook group where you can ask questions and interact with other listeners. Today's quote is from Wynn Bullock. If you stop searching, you stop living, because then you're dwelling in the past. If you're not reaching forward to any growth or future, you might as well be dead. I'm thrilled that I keep growing. I'm constantly learning new skills, reading new books, figuring out the future. I'm actually about to interview a futurist for the podcast. Now, before we get going, let's remember our action step from last week with Dr. Andy Garrett. Clarify your core values. We're going to hear about core values from our guest today. My question is, do you know yours? Have you taken the time to figure it out? You know, it's funny. The stories are back, and they never fail. Every time we go into a downturn, they start showing up in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times. And I've been reading these stories my whole life, and they're the reason and the spark that caused me to build wealth over my life. And they inspired me when I was young to get started. These are stories of people who were making high incomes, and now they're stuck because of high debt, an unwillingness to pivot, and losing their jobs. The older you are, the harder it gets to find jobs. And I know it really depends on the industry. It depends on how good you are at building relationships within your networks and across other industries. The bottom line, though, is having the wealth to be able to say no, to be able to pivot is crucial, but it takes time. When you are overspending and you're in debt, your freedom disappears. And that's exactly what happens to all these people in these stories. I never wanted to face that. And I have to tell you, when I left corporate, I came up to the edge where it wasn't pretty anymore. And I just said, screw you. I'm done. I'm going my own way. And I left and did my own thing. But you have to be ready for that. I was committed to building my freedom over a long period of time. You have to decide, are you interested in doing this or are you committed? See, when you're interested, you rationalize your excuses. And by rationalize, I mean you come up with rational lies that you tell yourself about why those goals just aren't so important anymore, and you're not committed. And so ask yourself, is this really what you want to be doing? And do you want a life of freedom and harmony? And then be committed to it and take those steps. Today, we're going to talk about thriving and growing with our guest. He's a business turnaround expert and a resort rehab specialist. Josh McCallen is a multi-faceted maestro in the luxury residential hospitality and real estate project leadership. In the past 20 years, Josh has led projects generating over $100 million in revenues in the above industries. He's also served as president of a 400-person hotel development and management company, built numerous businesses and brands. He conducts all his projects and operations with the highest caliber thought, leadership, energy, and expertise. He has a laser-focused approach to creating high-yield projects through strategic innovation, relationship building, and developing cultures that promote a genuine love of service. Today, Josh McCallen is co-founder of Accountable Equity and CEO of VIVÂMEE Hospitality. Let's meet our guest. Welcome to Richer Soul, Josh McCallen. It's great to have you join us today.
It's great to be here, Rocky. Thank you. And by the way, you had an incredible episode on our show. That's why we're here today, because I fell in love with your work.
Thank you. And I have been doing a bunch of research and I have fallen in love with your work. And I think it's going to be awesome. And the audience is really going to enjoy it. We always like to start at the beginning. What was it like when you were growing up, and how much did your family and school teach you about money?
Rocky, today we look back, sitting here, we're so honored to be part of a resort business that raises capital as well. But back at the beginning, we were growing up outside Philadelphia in the 70s and 80s. And I'm thinking it probably would have been a really nice situation. Like we would have had a nice middle-class family, but then two tragedies happened. My poor family got divorced, my mom and dad, in the early 80s. And then that's okay. I think most people have that experience these days. But then a tragedy happened a year later. The poor young lady, my mom, at 28, has a cerebral hemorrhage, spends 5 days in coma, and never fully really recovers to this day. She has not been able to work. She has trouble walking. And that just changed our whole life from then on. So we ended up not having a second income, right? My mom would have had a nurse's income and we would have probably been okay. So money was scarce. And what that did for us was it allowed me to think of my own personal responsibility. I hate to put it that way, but I never thought of money as anything other than my job to get. So it was the 80s. And back then there was such a thing. I hope you can put a time warp on this. There was something called paper routes.
I had one.
And being a paper boy at the time. And for those of you who are younger than us, you may not believe this, but a paper route was like an ideal training for entrepreneurship. Maybe this is how I learned money, Rocky, because remember the deal? They don't pay you. You don't get paid and you work every day.
I got paid.
Well, we didn't. We had to collect.
Well, yeah, you have to collect.
like a commission almost, right? I mean, like you
Yes.
are out there. So you do all your work as a paper boy, and then you go door to door and collect the money. What a legit entrepreneurial training that was, because you only got the money if you did the work and collected the money.
And that's true. And I learned, I would have conversations with my customers. And back then, people were a little blunter. Like to be like, don't ride your bicycle on my lawn. I want the newspaper delivered here. Do this. And, you know, you're a young kid, so you just do what they said. And what I found was the nicer I was to them and the more that I did what they said, the bigger my tips.
Oh, yeah, baby. Remember holiday tips were great.
Oh, yeah.
Tips.
For holidays, you made sure you put a Christmas card in with the paper.
Oh, I never did that. See, you're so wise even at a young age, Rocky.
We knew to put a Christmas card in there and to be there every week because you were building a relationship. And that was a big part of it because the tips are really where the big money was. And so that was definitely a key. And taking feedback and listening to your customers. And they used to run promotions too. So I'd make extra money selling more newspaper subscriptions, which was also kind of cool. And I learned to play that game. So here's how it worked. Depending what number you called in at, that's the prize you got. And it went from 1 to 20. So if I had 4 subscriptions, I'd call in and I'd give them 1. And so maybe that would be number 10. And I'd look for the next 3. Oh, those are not good numbers. I call back half an hour later. Now we're on number 18. I'm like, because number 20 was $20. So I'm like, 18, here's 18, 19, and 20. Give me the 20.
Oh, you see, you really, really worked the system. I had a little brother, so I learned how to have labor relations, you know. So my little brother and I would deliver the paper. And back then it was super early in the morning. Now, fast forward, I had this really great opportunity to walk to a pizzeria and be a pizza boy and the pizza man in the young high school years. And then from that, honestly, that changed my life. I became very passionate about work. Like, I love it. Some of us are hardwired to enjoy tons of work and a lot of responsibility. So we are hardwired that way. Grew up, had another epiphany at 16 that if you work in a fancy restaurant, you make twice as much money. And that kind of set me down this food and beverage path. And we get to college and we say, we kind of had a shift in college and we ended up studying liberal arts, actually taught history and theology as a young guy. And then after that, the real learning for money, learning about money, as you asked me earlier, I think was probably, like I said, the paper route, the life struggle, which became life opportunity to make money. But then there was this other great epiphany. Melanie and I got married young at 22. We now are married 24 years and we have 10 children, believe it or not. That's the crazy fact that everybody, usually it's my calling card. You're the guy with 10 kids. Yes. And you build resorts all over. Yep. So we're young. We had just enough cash for a down payment. And instead of buying a house, we bought a duplex, lived for free. And at 22, 23, that just gets your mind working in a different way, Rocky. So fast forward, here we are 24 years later, and we're doing this resort development.
Congratulations. And also in learning and kind of getting the epiphanies, because a lot of times the epiphanies come and we miss the, you know, like the door knocks come and we miss the door knocks, which is always a shame. So I'm guessing your family and school didn't teach you much about money then.
No, definitely not. We went to a great school and just loved learning. So I had a really nice time getting immersed in, like I said, history and theology, economics, and just economics in the sense of personal decisions, right? But no, we definitely didn't leave college with a hungry edge on making money or how it actually worked. As a matter of fact, talking to you in my show, you and your profit first strategies have been impactful even in the few weeks we've known each other.
Did you start using it? Well,
no. That would be awesome if I could say yes, but we're honest till the day is long. So what we've thought is I'm going to start introducing it to so we have a staff, a financing staff, and I keep thinking what we could do is we could set up a different account. We could put a few percentage points over. I know you told me I was okay to go less than 10 at first and crawl, walk, run. So my intention is to do it we're about to buy another resort this week. So it's a little chaotic here. Mm-hmm. But in the next few weeks, we're going to move our process to the multiple bank account process, if that's the way we're going to do it.
So when you got out of college, did you follow the theology route at all?
Actually, yeah. I mean, I taught high school for 1 year and we loved it. Civics, economics, theology, but we had a desire to have a family. Obviously, wages are not great. So we went right into our MBA. And that was a nice little, I call it capital hack. So we wanted an MBA, but we definitely didn't want any more college debt. So we went and you can do this cool situation with universities. You can work to get everything for free. So we worked and we took this job where they trained me or actually put me out on the world and said, recruit national and international students. And we got to travel and learn how to kind of present publicly. I really, really had a good time with that. So they're paying for my MBA. That was my first real innovation on how to get things done without much capital.
And that's impressive. And I think that's one of the big things is people have to learn is how do you hack your way to something? And you had 2 hacks there because not only did you get your MBA for free, but you got to travel for free. Actually, there's 3 hacks because you learned how to sell, right? And present. So someone was paying you to learn skills that would allow you to build your business.
Sorry to interrupt you. That's 100% right. Boy, I love it. I'll let you finish because that's a killer point.
No, that was basically my point is when someone else will pay you to learn and you can do it on their dime, that is phenomenal.
Think about that famous Rich Dad, Poor Dad author, Robert Kiyosaki's, one of his first principles. He says, the rich do not work for money. And you're like, what the heck? What does that paragraph mean or that chapter? And his whole point is the rich work to learn, not earn, because they're going to earn on their own asset development. So they're going to just work to learn. And boy, is that a phenomenal hack. We definitely want everybody to find a way to put that in their life right now. Rocky, while you brought that up, and by the way, you're the first person in all the shows we've ever been on that said it so perfectly. You should consider a job as a free education. And if you shift your mindset like that, boy, you can really take control of your destiny.
And that's very true. And we've had some guests on the past who have talked to that very nature that they actually were intentional enough to say, I wanted this job because I wanted, and I think a couple of them were in the real estate space. I want to get in real estate, but I don't know how. So let someone pay me to teach me how to do real estate. And so they'd go into a place that did that, and that's how they did it. So it's definitely smart.
Public service announcement, Rocky. We are growing at a pretty good clip right now, Capital Group, as well as Acquisition Group, as Land Development Group. So we are currently looking for those learners that want to join us. We will pay for them to learn, if you know what I mean. So people reach out to me later. We'll give you our contact info. If you're one of those people who want to learn, we have room on the boat.
And you know, this is the thing that I think people don't realize and they struggle with. A players want A players, right? But most companies are B players who want C players. And
that's true.
When you think through that, like a lot of times, especially a young person's like, well, why does Josh want me? Why would Josh hire me? Why would Josh hire me to teach me if I'm going to go off and start my own business? And so why would Josh do that?
Well, we have 2 different people that do it now, 2 different types. Yeah, if you're young, you're going to probably join us we're going to recognize that the value transmission is probably a little bit more our way to you. And that's a little frustrating, just to be honest with you. So you would have to come with your A game of tenacity and willingness to just learn what you don't know, and we'll help you fill in the cracks. And you're going to have to contribute right away, whether it be the grunt work of data entry or contacting our investors or doing the research on projects or underwriting. You're not going to be, you're going to realize that your compensation for your work is primarily learning and putting it on your resume. And I don't mean the paper resume. I mean your life resume that you can speak to. Then there's this other type of person, Rocky, that has started joining us. And I've been trying to coin a term for this. These are the people like gentlemen like you, actually, Rocky, or ladies who join us, who have a fantastic career. They want to do what we're doing. Actually, sometimes they invest with us in order to do this. They join our community, and then they basically put their time in, sweat equity, so that they're part of they're using their investment sometimes, or they're using their sweat equity as a way to learn. And I'm trying to coin the term. I call it something like adult internships or wealth internships is what I've been thinking, because these are people that have a great job or great income or they have a nest egg. They're in their 40s or 50s, maybe even 60s. They're not actually looking for the $12 an hour or $15 an hour, any kind of route like that, because they have cash flow. They're looking for exponential wealth growth, and they know that's what we do for a living. And they make their way onto our team. And I have a few of them, like 4 people right now that I'll call them wealth interns, where they're along for the long term, and they're putting real value in, whether it be literally, we have some that are doing not accounting, but part of our processing, and they're adding legit value. So we spend tons of time with them. They're in on it. They have us on their resume now. And when they want to, they could go do the deals like we do. So we actually have an open door policy both ways. We want to set you up so you can succeed in your life. Because our deals are so compelling, we hope you stay with us. But as long as you put your time in while you were with us, we feel it's a fair trade. If you move on, that's okay. It's okay as long as you added the value while you were there and treated it with respect. There's something called the Dream Manager book. You know who gave it to me? Tim Rode. And you and I were just talking about him a minute ago from GoBundance. And it's all about instead of being afraid to teach your team exorbitantly profitable skills like selling or fundraising, teach them. Let them apply their energy and skill with you and for your team. And if they outgrow your team, if your team is not able to keep up with growth, because our team's growing at a great clip, so they're going to be able to just expand their career options with us. If there was a day where we were ready to retire, which is 40 years away, if at that time we can't grow as big as their goals, then they're going to move on. And we're going to cheer them on like cheerleaders.
And that's a great attitude. Unfortunately, it's an attitude that's not prevalent enough in society, especially in big corporations. But it is out there, and there are places that do it. And there are people who have that kind of attitude. And I know Tim is one of them. In the way that he treats his group is very much along those lines. Like, let's thrive and grow and have fun and enjoy life. And I think too often people just don't do that. So we're here today because you made a comment when we were chatting, and it was very unique. You run a soul-based business.
Yes, we do.
What does that mean?
We have stumbled into something beautiful. And our career over those 20 years that we glossed over went from getting the MBA to living in Europe. All that stuff was awesome. But it ended up preparing us to be a project manager. We became a land developer and a builder. Then the recession stopped that. We then later came back into land development through the resort window and became nationally recognized at this rehabbing resorts specialty, like we're business turnaround people. And while we were doing that, we thought of ourselves primarily as land developers. We bought older buildings, 1970, 1980, hotels on the beach that were in terrible condition, but in killer locations. And we said, this was my first business when I was the president, but not the capital partner. And we thought, you know what you do is you turn them into basically the level of a 4-star hotel, like a Hyatt. You make them beautiful again with money and great construction detailing, invest. And then the guests will love you. And back then I would have called them customers. But here's what happened. Seasonal resorts are at the highest end of danger in operational challenges. You have the simple hotel. For those of you who are driving around and you're like, I love Rocky's show and I love Richer Soul. Who the heck's this crazy cat talking about hotels? Well, you and I have all stayed in hotels. So the hardest ones to operate, it goes up a value chain. You got the Econo Lodge would be the easiest because all they do is give you a bed with a pillow. And then you get to the Holiday Inn Express is slightly harder to operate, but pretty easy because there's no real staffing. There's just that check-in person and a cleaner the next day. Then you get to full service with restaurants. You're like, as soon as you hear restaurants, you know it's going to be challenging. That's like a Marriott in the city. And then you get to something called a resort. And a resort means hotel Restaurant, absolutely, both of them have to be there. And then the third thing, it means something else. Like, what else? Usually there's some other amenity, whether it be the beachfront or fantastic pools or some other something, right? That makes it a resort. Okay, so that's where it gets harder and harder to operate. And then throw in one crazy, wacky thing, Rocky. You throw in seasonality, massive seasonality. So if we're in Florida running a resort, we can expect our staff will turn over 25% a year to maybe 20. That's a lot, but it's okay. And you can expect that they'll get 12 months of work with us. So we'll get to know them, train them. They'll be great at what they do. Whereas if you go to the Northeast, like we built this business, and you know that we get 4 good months, 3 really profitable months, 1 shoulder month, that means every staff pretty much is being laid off in the Northeast. If not, if you're able to stay open, maybe 75% are being laid off. And that you tell me how you can just perceive. I think you guys are feeling it in my bones. You can perceive how challenging that is because you're charging $500 a night on the beach, and your guest is like $500 is a lot of money for a night, and they expect 4 Seasons style service. But we only hired Jenny and Bill 5 weeks ago, and they're the ones taking care of you at the bar and the restaurant. So what we learned is we needed to be a turnaround company, a training company, and we should get out of the business if we're not going to take this as a mission in life. And so we went through a couple tough years before we picked up on that epiphany. And when we picked up on that epiphany, we became very successful. I hate to say it that way, but we reached 7th ranked hotel in America on TripAdvisor, USA Today, Wall Street Journal. Got plaques on the wall. We were ranked above 55,000 American hotels for guest experience. And it was all because we flipped the switch. We still had that massive problem of turnover. But once we flipped the switch and said, it's not the building, it's the heart. It's the heart of service. And this you can translate into your business, Rocky, and everybody can translate it into their business because everybody who listens to the show is probably an aggressive entrepreneur, a new entrepreneur, or a wily old veteran. And so they're saying, well, I'm not building hotels. Well, service is deeply personal. And in hotels, thank God, it's extremely personal. And if you run from that, like if you always say these darn guests or customers and you complain, you will plummet into a hole that you'll probably never get out of. But if you flip the switch and say, let's embrace this, let's be ridiculously personal as best we can. Let's create culture around that. Let's create some process and let's focus on the person. Well, then you build a whole culture that says, hey, our guests have infinite dignity and worth. This is just the truth. Like I feel my heart and my life and my family's life is worth infinite amount. Same thing with each guest. You never call them a customer because you can't have a customer in your home, and you turn your place of business into a home for them. Then you turn it into a place of peace. And as soon as you turn it into a place of peace where you want no stresses on them while they're there, you start to realize you're nurturing their soul. And this, I can tell you, I'm sorry I've given a deep explanation here, but this soul transformation took us 3 years. And what we found was in hospitality, we get to see the most vulnerable moments of people's lives, right? We always say the most personal things a person can do, the most intimate things a person can do are make babies, number 1. Number 2, enjoy a meal. And number 3, rest for the night. Like those are the 3 most vulnerable personal, where your physical body kind of reveals its character or is sensitive, right? So a great meal, you can picture when grandma makes you a great meal, like the entire family's closer. Why? Well, because something happens magical around meals. And then when you're going to bed, if someone gives you the best sleep of your night, like forever, like the best mattress, the best pillow, the best comfort, you just feel peaceful. Or the opposite is true. If the bed is lumpy or the pillow's bad or the cold temperatures can't be controlled, you will get so angry and you're so vulnerable. So what we did is we just kind of read the tea leaves and developed a culture that was based on the person. It transformed us to a national figure.
That's got to be hard to do, though, when you have such turnover. How do you find the right people people? Because that's probably the key to it.
It is. But I didn't know that at first. I thought the first thing was training. So at first we went heavy into training, I think for years. So what we said, and this was not just me, I had an incredible partner. He suggested weekly weekly boot camps almost on why we do what we do. That's what I called it, why we do what we do. And so we would gather everybody. And I mean 95% of the people that worked there. There would always be one person who had to stay at the front desk or something. But we would sneak off into a conference room, all of us, 25 at first, then 50, then 100. Then it ended up getting up to hundreds of people. We would all get in one space. We'd go over our culture. Now, this was challenging. It took a while to develop a curriculum. But we would always basically want to go over the why we're doing it every week. So at first, we thought training would get you there. And I want to tell you about this training in a minute, but I'll tell you the truth was what you just said. Later, and I mean years later, we realized it was more the hiring process. But truthfully, you need both. The hiring process with never ending, never stopping training, but not just training on how to use a computer to answer a phone, training on the why. And I don't even know if the word training is the best word. It's more just reflection on the why. And I'm going to give you something here in a minute, Rocky, but I don't want to steamroll the answer. I'm going to share with you the secret steps. We came up with this in different forms over the last 6 years, and now we've really crystallized it. It became our whole mission. Usually is summed up in our name, first of all. That's one trick. Our name of our company is always, the way I build companies with our team, is we say the name simply is the mission. So I'll explain what I mean by that, but we try to keep it super in front of even the brand new hire. So the name of our company is our mission. So VIVÂMEE is our hospitality company, VIVÂMEE, which is French for revive the soul. It's two stylized French words put together. The entire meaning of the word is to revive the soul in French. So we say, well, that's our name. And you might say, well, I thought you guys built buildings, or I thought you ran hotels. We do. But there's a soul in the building that we find, because we find dirty old resorts that are a little bit torn apart, I should say. And we figure out what is the architectural soul, what was the mission of the person who built this building, why is this here, what's the story, the soul, number one. We build against that plan and build something world-class. Two, we're in hospitality, so the soul always means the guest soul. And what we later came out is it also means the team soul. So number one, as we say, the building soul. Number two is the soul of hospitality. Starting with the team to deliver it to the guests. All right. So that's number one. Try to put the name, the mission into your name so that everyone who's brand new gets to know it quick. And that helps. Two, develop your core values and then over communicate them. Over and over and over communicate them. As long as they're authentic, it's not hard to communicate them. So I'm going to share with you the three core values that have benefited us, and that I was on Bigger Pockets recently, the business show, and we gave a whole deep dive into this. So if you really want that content, you can hit up Bigger Pockets Business. But I'm going to give it to you guys in bullet form. These three core values we bring up in the interview. So back to Rocky, your point. How do you find these people? Well, you write it in the job description. Many people don't see it. Then you filter people into an interview, phone first, and then ultimately through a final vetting process. And we flat out ask these three core values. And we ask them, and we say it this way, Rocky. We'll use you as the interviewee. Rocky, you are the best front desk manager we had apply. And that means your skills are awesome. We really hope this is a great fit for you, Rocky. We're going to share with you the three core values that enlighten and inspire this property and this business. And if they fit you, like when you hear these, Rocky, you feel good, even if you're not perfect, because we're not perfect, or even if you've never heard them before, but you want them, then you're going to love it here. So let me tell them to you real quick, and then I'll explain them. You need to search your own soul. Do you enjoy this work? So we need you to, the only people we can allow on this team actually enjoy this work. Number one is joy. Number 2 is, do you seek humility? Do you want humility to be your driving core value in your life? And number 3, do you want to be in a ministry? Like, do you want something so powerful, so meaningful that it inspires you? So number 1, joy, humility, and ministry. We say them to you, Rocky, right in the interview. We then expound on them, explain them. And if you are motivated, your body language lights up. We know you're in. If you're totally demotivated, your body language reveals it. And if you don't ask any questions and you look demotivated, it's clearly a bad fit. So we always say it doesn't make you a bad person. It just makes you a bad fit if these 3 core values don't work for you. And we would hate for you to join a team that doesn't make you feel great every day. And so those 3 core values, we go over them every week and we watch how they play out in our team. And that has made us literally a nationally ranked resort operating company.
Today's episode is sponsored by Profit Answer Man Podcast. Did you know that most small business owners hate looking at their financials? It's one reason they may struggle with business success. The Profit Answer Man podcast helps them ensure they are profitable and can pay their employees and weather the storms we all have to face. It's built on the Profit First methodology of pay yourself first. The Profit Answer Man podcast is a must listen to for every small business owner and anyone who wants to help them survive and thrive. Check it out on your favorite listening platform. So I'm going to challenge our listeners. Whether you own a business or you work in a company, what are the core values of your business or the company that you work for? I'd love for you to be able to spew them out and know them immediately. Because my guess is most of you have no freaking idea what they are. And even if you know what they are, my guess is most of you would probably say that you're 180 degrees opposite in the way your company behaves. And I think that's a shame, and I think it's a problem. And I think even companies who have it right and have the right core values don't bother to walk the talk. You're in the hospitality industry, so you know what your competitors do. What are they like? Do they walk the talk of their mission statements and their values?
I think they do, Rocky. I do. So let's use Marriott as an example.
Yeah, they're an exception, right? Because Marriott said, take good care of your employees and they'll take good care of your customers and the customers will come back. I'm a Marriott fan. We are, I don't know, like titanium elite. Like they treat us like God when we go in there. Like I love them because they treat me so well. Whereas I don't love Hilton because they don't treat me so well. So I know Marriott's good, but go ahead.
Well, I mean, I didn't know that. I've had good experiences with both of those major brands, but I would just say that their goals are slightly different, and we cherish their goals. Their goals are around efficiency, cleanliness, and usually timeliness about how fast you can get in and out and all that great stuff, and having the right, furniture in the rooms and all those good features and the measurements of the lobby. Those are some high energy parts of their business plan. High focus, I should say. And service is clearly part of their business plan. It's part of their business plan. And I don't have anything against those values. I just think what we're shooting for is the soul. And we're not going to hit it every time. And we're not worthy to help our guests, feel good about themselves. But we're going to try anyway. We always say we want this to be a place of peace where you feel refreshed. You feel like, thank God I came here. And that's a little different goal than Marriott and Hilton. Of course, we want cleanliness. We want the best food. And our winery wants the best wine. And our golf course wants the best round of golf. And all of that, we always say to our staff is, of course, you guys are seeking to be the best at all those things. But why? And this was a tricky one. We always say it becomes a ministry for you. And our guests will feel it. If your why isn't so that we beat out Hilton on the fastest check-in time, But if your why is to make Rocky feel loved when he checks into the room because of the way we treated him, the goal is to actually serve Rocky, not just the fastest check-in time. So it's just a focus. It's called intentionality. If your intention is different, the experience is different for the guest. So again, none of us are sitting here going, we're really good at these things. We're just saying we are seeking to be great at these things, which makes us on the right track, right, Rocky? It just puts our energy where we want it to flow. We want it to flow towards the soul or the heart of the guest and what they need in life. They need this resort experience to be peaceful and restorative. Remember, because we're not business hotels necessarily. We truly are places where you need a little break.
So how do you deal with an associate who maybe makes a mistake or upsets a customer or can't solve the problem or didn't even understand the problem?
Okay, so I have a really fun answer here, but it's a little bit core to our heart, and that is the word team. So all of our associates are team members. Now, we don't mean that trite or cliche, like, forgive me, it's not from a wall poster. What we mean is you were hired to be a starter on the field. You are not allowed to sit on the bench. There is no bench here. You're supposed to be a point guard or the starting forward. Therefore, when the ball gets in your hands, you need to execute. If you don't execute, we will coach you. If you hate the game of basketball, we will ask you to go away. So we treat it that way, and we say, great news, everyone. This is literally a team because every day we can either choose to win or we will lose. And the losing is when the guest feels we didn't care, their problems weren't met, no one actually cared. Like I said, that's a total failure. Not only do we lose that guest, we destroyed our whole project that day, our whole purpose that day. So that whole idea of teaching that we're a team and you can't be on the field, like Michael Jordan's Last Dance show. We've all seen it. The guy was intense beyond intensity, and he was the teammate. So that's what we're saying to all our team. Like, you really don't want anybody on this team with you that doesn't want to win every day. And winning looks like this, the 3 core values, and making sure the guests feel that. It doesn't, losing is not when we make a mistake. So you came in, you checked in, Rocky, and you're at the beautiful Renault Resort Winery in New Jersey, and your room was the wrong room type. You desperately wanted our luxury suite with a separate bedroom and a kitchen, and we have you in our Value King. And you show up, and it's our mistake, and you look us right in the eye, and you're a tough person, Rocky, and you say, I am not going to stand for this kind of garbage. I was told you guys were very good at what you do. Total mistake. It's the way we respond is whether we fail or win. So we're going to do, of course, we're going to try to make Rocky happy. But if we literally hold our guns and say, well, then you're going to have to pay 10% more, 50% more, and it was our mistake. However we respond is whether we're going to choose to win or fail. Not that we made the mistake. And our associates who are team members, I'm not too worried about them falling down. As a matter of fact, a player that falls down when they're trying to drive the hoop for Michael Jordan wouldn't have bothered Michael Jordan. So if they make a mistake, that's fine. As long as they were trying really, really hard and we're seeking the good of the guest, we'll figure it out. We'll coach you through that.
And that's an important thing. You have to coach employees. And I think a lot of people don't put the effort into coaching them properly and making sure that they understand. One of the things I've heard you mention is that your employees have a sensitivity to revenue. What does that mean?
That's so true. Oh my gosh, thank you. These are some things we're doing right, Rocky. And from our Profit First debate a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, there's some things I'm not doing as well as you recommend, so I'm trying to get better. One thing we're doing right is that team approach. We say sales are sacred. And what we mean by that is we use the word sacred, and we mean this. So your name, and we have this incredible teammate named Bobby, who Bobby is absolutely core to the team. He helps keep the thing moving. He's kind of like in this, what's called a houseman's role. A lot of like filling the cracks, everything from cleaning to moving furniture, everything, right? So Rocky, Bobby needs the dang job. His family is counting on him to bring home a weekly paycheck. The business needs the sale to create the paycheck. So it was very easy for Bobby when we got to know him to understand that helping the salespeople helps him. So he's the best example. He's been written up in a positive way on the internet multiple times. And remember, he cleans the floors and the lobby and things like that and is a fantastic gentleman. But his name shows up in several wedding reviews. And it goes back to when they came and bought a wedding with us, let's say. They remember meeting Bobby because he stopped what he was doing, got out of their way and said, thank you for being here and congratulations on your engagement. So why does Bobby do that? Because at these trainings, we explain to Bobby, each sale keeps us in business and we're a legit business. What do I mean by legit? Meaning money comes in and we pay our people. That's a legit business. So when we are selling, we say we are doing something sacred. We are taking care of Bobby. And because we believe in the value of our asset and our work, we're doing something great for the guest who buys. And we all know that sales can be looked at as a negative activity, but here they're held up as a cherished gift to our guests. So that intensity is why we're doing very, very well, even in COVID.
Congratulations. I was going to ask you about that because it seemed like in the beginning things dropped off, and then it seems like everyone started taking off to resorts and hotels and to nice places because they could all work remote. They're like, let's go hang out somewhere nice and work remote. Why am I sitting at home and not enjoying life while I'm working? So have you seen a big uptick because of that?
Yes and no. Okay, so our business sells, we have literally definitely one of the largest vineyard resorts in the country. So we can rival Napa and our wine's excellent and all that great stuff. So we have a lot of spaces to sell. So our wedding sales process was legally allowed to continue during the lockdown because a lot of it's over the telephone and hotel rooms and stuff were allowed to be walked through even when we couldn't serve you food. So brides and guests would still come from Manhattan and book their weddings with us. So our wedding process went up by 40% during Corona, probably just because we never stopped and we were tenacious about it and the brides wanted the book. Our restaurants and our hotel occupancy went down to the floor because the governor actually asked us to stop doing those things for several months. So to be fair, our daily revenues went way down. They have climbed up over the last several months since we've been allowed to do outdoor experience dining and things like that. And we have the 5 acres of garden restaurant. I mean, we have the best outdoor dining in America, probably because of the expansive nature and the social distancing nature and the beauty. So yes, we are growing at a great clip week over week. But Rocky, to be fair, it was a punch in the gut for those months. Definitely.
You're in Jersey because, yeah, I'm noticing because we were thinking, oh, let's shoot out to the Outer Banks. And I go looking at September's usually dead. It's all booked out. Like you go even down south to some of the places and a lot of the stuff is booked out because if your kid's school is online,
that's
right,
true.
And you're online, it's like, let's go hide out somewhere fun. Why am I staying here? And especially if you live in Manhattan, because, you know, you're all cramped into nothing.
We do benefit from that, actually. You're right. You know, because we service northern Jersey as well as Manhattan pretty well. But Rocky, no, you make a great point. I mean, the thing that's been surprising and we're very grateful for is our model, because we're selling revenue into the future. So remember, a bride today is typically buying 2022 now. And they're looking past our cycle of Corona because they have either hope or they realize even if the infections continue and deaths are still modest, we do eventually have to go to work again, right? I mean, no matter what, someday we're going to have to get back to some work for many of us. So they're looking out there in the future and they're buying. And they're paying us 25% cash today for the year 2022. Because of that, Rocky, we took the Warren Buffett method and said, if we have a business with intrinsic value, but everybody else wants to get out of hospitality right now because there hasn't been a positive news story on hospitality in 4 months, 5 months. So we're out buying. We're about to acquire another resort in like the next few weeks. and we're just going to keep buying because we're getting depressed prices, like Warren does, on assets that are legacy lifetime buys. And this economy's so negative on hospitality right now, and yet we're selling more weddings than ever. So it means the future is going to be very bright, Rocky. It's like a great indicator.
And opportunities present themselves at times, and those who have the ability and the cash can take advantage of those opportunities. And this is, it's in times like this where the biggest wealth transfers take place. And the people who are strong and have built the financial foundation have the ability to take advantage of these opportunities. I know your industry is down quickly. I think there are other industries. The cycles all time differently. Mm-hmm. And so depending on what you're looking at, real estate might be a little further out. The restaurants are probably in the same boat, if not ahead of you in their issues. So you just have to watch the cycles. Real estate's a little bit slower, but you never know. And you just have to look and see if you can find the right opportunity with the right cash flow, then go for it.
You nailed it, buddy.
So let's just talk a little bit about masterminds, because we did have Tim Rhodes on from
That's great.
GoBundance, and you're part of GoBundance. What is being part of a group like that meant to you?
Yeah, great question. These were new to me about 2 years ago, 2018, I guess now. That one was introduced to me by Matt Faircloth, the famous Bigger Pockets contributor, and he encouraged me to join. So I said, well, I really like you, and I like what you're doing, and I'm here to learn. So if you're doing masterminds, I'll do it. So I have to admit, I jumped in because of a great personal reference. Then we jumped in. I'm going to tell you, I've now been associated with 3, and we created one with a group of people ourselves. So masterminds are important to me. And Rocky, by the way, I got to have you be a speaker at our mastermind, which is we meet quarterly with our investors, and we do a free mastermind program for all our investors. So I got to introduce everybody to you. But masterminds, here's what I think the definition, it kind of comes from that book, Napoleon Hill, where the idea of the mastermind is all these different inputs and influence on your problem. So if you can be vulnerable. So part of a mastermind is not just presentations and things like that. It's going to an education group where the education typically happens from some vulnerability, where you share your current struggle with peers. They then say, here's how I overcame that kind of struggle, or here's a great idea, or here's an opportunity. And then you mastermind a better way. Because you obviously are successful, whoever you are, and you have great ideas. But what if you have 4 great successful people sharing with you, entering into your problem for a period of time, and saying, here's what I might do. So a mastermind is this whole kind of vulnerability, crowdsourcing the answer, and coming up with the best answer. But I will say GoBundance is a little different because it implies a different holistic picture of us all. And it's the idea where they say you do need, that's actually built on a lot of great principles, a lot of goal setting in GoBundance, a lot of physical activity in GoBundance. A lot of their events are oriented around extreme activities, not necessarily extreme sports, but things like skiing or rock climbing or skydiving. They're just kind of intense activities, or trips to like Costa Rica or cool areas. So what they're doing with that, here's what they're doing. I've come to understand what GoBundance is doing. Totally impressive group of people all over the country and international. We meet up a few times a year as a big group, and then we meet up regionally all the time. What they're doing is getting us out of our normal work environments and getting us into like nature and things like that, or collective groups, and then doing the mastermind. So they kind of have some extra bonus, I would say, things. I would say GoBundance is a cool project that most people should look into that own a business and want to expand their horizon about how they think and solve problems. And by the way, make sure you mention Josh McCallen, because they do have a competition every year about who brings in the most. And Brandon Turner from Bigger Pockets wins every damn year. So I'd like to beat him.
Brandon's a great guy. He's built a wonderful platform with Bigger Pockets and is expanding it out. And it is great. And I usually tell people, if you want to learn about real estate, go to Bigger Pockets. Don't spend a lot of money. They've got tons and tons of free information there. And low cost information, so you don't have to overspend to learn about
I
real
agree.
estate.
No, they're great. They're legit. And Brandon in particular, just such a great teacher.
You know, it's funny. People don't realize that the mastermind kind of went back to Ben Franklin.
Oh, tell me about that.
They used to call it the Junto Club. I think there was another name like Leather Apron or something. But some of the things, they would get together and they would talk about, it was a little bit different. So masterminds were always talking about ourselves, right? Here they were talking about society and how do we make society better and what are the problems in society we can fix. And so from that came volunteer firefighters, night watchmen, public hospitals, public libraries, like all those concepts came out of these gentlemen sitting together and saying, what are the things in society that needs to be done? And how do we go about creating and making things happen? And so this is something that I think goes way, way back throughout society. And I'm sure it goes back to Roman and Greek times when people would get together and the people of knowledge would figure out better ways to do things and help each other and have those philosophical debates that we're too busy to sit down and think through, which is unfortunate.
I love your explanation. I'm going to explain that to people. I love that. Thank you, Rocky.
You are welcome. So we always like to take action. What is one action step people can take this week to move forward in their lives?
You know, maybe the Simon Sinek principle, that guy who wrote the book, Start with the Why. Perhaps any of us, no matter how successful we are, and I'm sure I have to do it in all my different projects as well. Why are we doing it? How strong is our why? And then rely on that conviction to put more energy into getting past whatever the roadblock is. So perhaps question your why and grab hold of the energy it creates.
And I think a lot of people don't know their why, but you should. You should know why you do what you do. And if it's just to make money, it's not going to be a great life. It'll be drudgery, right?
Can be, yeah.
And you won't hire them, will you? Unless they know their why and their why matches up with your core values. Not a place to be.
I'll tell you what, we might hire them if they're intrigued and want it. Just so you know, that's kind of, we understand that not everybody's thinking like us when they get there. What we want to do is say, here's what we're thinking. Do you like it or not?
And that's cool.
That is kind of cool. We're okay with everybody being at different spots.
It's time to learn the secrets of life. What's your secret to living an abundant life?
Gratitude is my secret, and I do mean that even when there's struggles. Greatest book on that is The Obstacles Away by Ryan Holiday.
I love that book. What did you learn later in life that you wish you would have learned sooner?
Adding value to your network, like being the mensch, they say, making sure you put somebody together with somebody else to add value to their life, it will immediately be replicated, or what do you call reciprocated.
And they always say you have to give 3 times before you should ask. So always be giving, and it's never 1-to-1. It's 3-to-1, 4-to-1, 5-to-1. Always be giving. If you were to give an 18-year-old one specific piece of wisdom, what would it be?
We brought it up, you and I, and it truly would be the work you're doing now can be transformative if you use it as learning. I don't care what it is. Working at McDonald's teaches you how to do systematic business operations. Whatever it is are you doing it for learning, or are you mad at your life? Use your choice.
So figure out what you want to learn, and then figure out who will teach you what you want to learn and pay you to learn it.
Exactly.
Where can people find you, connect, and learn more?
We didn't get to go into it much, but my beautiful wife, Melanie, and I lead accountableequity.com, accountable equity, 2 words. And our name is our mission there too. Our whole life now is we've put a team together of contractors and construction and leaders of our hospitality company. So our full-time work now really is nurturing our investor community. And we have people from all over the country. So accountableequity.com, grab us for whatever you might need. There are several great opportunities for investors to join us, and it doesn't take millions of dollars. People start with 25 or 50 grand and they join us. So accountableequity.com.
Cool. And I will put that in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for joining us today, Josh.
You are incredible, buddy. I'm so glad to be part of your community. Thank you, Richer Soul.
Do you work for or run a soul-based business? If you're taking good care of your employees, they will take good care of your customers. It's a two-sided coin. You're either on the employer side or the employee side, but you need to do your best to create an environment that's based on what your soul wants. For me, I only work with people who want to work with me and are willing to do the work, to grow and to learn. They're committed to change. There comes that word again, committed versus interested. Do you know your core values? Can you explain it in 3 words like Josh does? I got to say it's impressive. It takes time to come up with your words. Maybe sometimes over life they change, but that's okay. Josh mentioned Tim Rode in this episode, and Tim was on a previous episode of Richer Soul. It was 167, Empowering Healthy, Wealthy, Generous Men to Live Epic Lives. And who doesn't want to live an epic life? And you can see that with Josh. You see that with Tim. Today, I'm working on my 3-year plan for who I will be in 3 years, and it's pretty epic. Figuring all this out takes time, and implementing takes even longer, and sometimes you need someone to help you through it. This week's action step was, what's your why? Figuring that out, and all of a sudden, life becomes easier. It really does when you know why you're doing things. Next week, I've got an inspiring guest. His name is Boyd Dunleavy, and it's an amazing story. You're going to love it, so stay tuned. If you're still listening, you must have liked the episode. Can you please do me a favor? Share it with your friends and family. I would appreciate that. Thanks for listening. Have an abundant week.